Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of every age in the Western New York area and beyond, welcome to Hashtag Sports Postgame of the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Buffalo Bills. A unceremonious loss for the Buffalo Bills today. We have, obviously, there's me, there's Paul, and we have special guest Clayton Garrett from the Cold Front Report joining us as well because, it was just it was one of those days, Bills fans, as you know. We've had a few of these. Right out of the gate, we want to say that this episode is sponsored by Sean Rogers Homes, the top 1% realtor in Arizona. If you're looking to move out to the Valley of the Sun, Paul, this is what the Bills do to me. This is what the Bills do to me, Paul. All of his information is linked below in the description, as well as new hashtag merch. If you guys want to get your hands on some very fly hashtag merch, we do have it down in our Etsy store. Make sure you visit that as well. And one thing before we get into the post game, we want to say thank you to all of those that came out to support Matthew 25 Farms at the golf tournament at Diamond Hawk Golf Course yesterday. It was so much fun. Paul, you did a phenomenal job. I can't say that enough. You organizing it and everything. You and your family just totally rocking out the whole tournament. We were able to raise quite a bit of money for Matthew 25 Farms. Rick Rarick, who is in the chat. So we want to thank you for that. We always like to thank Hashtag Nation for joining us for our post games, even albeit in a loss. They won. I was going to wear my winner hat, Paul, but they didn't win, so I can't wear it. Can't wear it today. So we have. And like I said before, we've enlisted the services of Clayton Garrett from the Cold Front Report. And Paul, initial thoughts on the opening day loss for the Buffalo Bills today.
So I heard the announcer in the fourth quarter talk about Devin Singletary effectively running the ball for a couple of plays in a row. And then I heard the announcer say, well, where has this been all day? Oh, I can tell you where it was. Oh, I can tell you where it was. But, I think there were points where things just felt panicked, right? Where things just felt not well thought out. And you could point fingers however you want, right? There was a fair amount of pressure Pittsburgh was able to generate. Josh was running around quite a bit, probably a lot more than a lot of us were really comfortable with. And it was just a messy execution all the way around. The points of the game where they wanted to get tricky literally just exploded. And there was a point where, the first possession of this game, me personally, I think their first possession told you everything that was going to happen for the rest of the game. You could have fast-forwarded to the fourth quarter. I would have been like, okay, so I didn't miss anything. Like, you can't start down inside the 25 or at the 25 to start the first possession and walk away with 3 points. Losing football teams take 7 and turn it into 3. That's what happens. You take 7, you turn it 3. Can't do it, man. Can't do it. But I would love to hear what Clayton has to say because he's often way more saucy about this stuff than me.
You kind of just you outlined it there perfectly, Paul. You can't go down there and have a 75-yard kick return and it amounts to nothing but 3 points. It almost looked like the offense was caught off guard with such good field position. And that's not necessarily what you want to see from this team. You don't want to see them be caught off guard. You want to see them be opportunistic in an opportunity like that, starting at what was it, their own 30 or the Steelers 35-yard line or 20 to 30-yard line, somewhere in there, deep in their position. They need to turn that into 7 points. That can't be a field goal there. And from that point on, it didn't really get much better for the offense. I didn't see much rhythm. I didn't see any comfort from Allen at any point in this game. And I didn't see much done by the offensive coordinator to help him out in that facet at all. I didn't see them move the pocket. They weren't blitzing a lot. That was the most frustrating part of the Steelers' approach against the Bills' offense was they weren't blitzing a lot. They were sending their guys back in coverage. They were just winning by sending straight 4 rushers. Having their big guys in the middle. They were doing a lot of exotic looks, moving them around a lot before the snap to kind of confuse the offensive line, and it showed. They were winning their matchups. It was definitely a tough matchup along the interior. Players such as John Feliciano, Ike Bacher, and Cody Ford all did not play well today. And, much held true as to what happened in the last time these two teams met up. Casey Hayward absolutely wrecked the game plan for the Bills offense and the interior offensive line. And it was all over from there. The Bills really, there was plenty of answers that you could have had. There's a lot of solutions that you can have for when an offensive line's just being deteriorated from the inside out, which is what happened. They really didn't show anything from that point on. They really just kind of sent Allen out there and hope that he would make magic happen and make a play happen and play hero ball. And, that's really what a majority of this game looked like on the offensive side of the ball for the Bills. And that's really where the fault lies, as the defense played plenty well enough to win this football game.
Oh, absolutely. They definitely did. I think the defense had probably one of their better showings that they've had in a couple of years. You give up 252 total offensive yards in this NFL that they have right now, you should win the game. The opposing team's quarterback goes 18 for 32 for under 200 yards passing. You should win. What did Harris have? 45 yards on the ground?
He averaged 2.8 yards per carry.
Yeah. I mean, he had a couple flashy runs, but for the most part, they executed plays. I'm talking about the Steelers. They executed plays when they needed to. That drive when they went down and kicked the field goal to pretty much seal it, to put them up 10 was the defining factor in the game, among other things. But that was at that point in the game, going up 10 at that point, the Buffalo Bills, they were playing. It was, as the announcer said, they said it was academic at that point. But you know what? It's funny that Clayton mentioned the elephant in the room, and that's not a saying. I'm talking about the elephant in the box, actually, calling the plays up top. I know everyone is getting on Dable, and you know what? Listen, I didn't say that name to trigger Paul. You guys just saw his reaction right when I just said the guy's name. So I told Paul, I said, listen, here for me, I told him off camera right before we came on here. I said, listen, here's how it is for me. He goes, you can't really blame Dable without blaming Allen. Allen had his faults today too, but I think it's a trickle down effect for me. I think it goes from Dable to the offensive line, then to Allen, because they were in his kitchen the entire day. And you know what? As an offensive play caller, you got to figure out how to get them out of your kitchen. Now, if it's just better execution by your offensive line that you just have to have, well, it wasn't happening. The first 2 quarters told you that they weren't going to get it done by themselves. Put a running back in the backfield, have 6 in protection, do something different. I'm not even talking about the 4th down plays at all right now. I'm just talking about the flow of the game, the process of the game. Josh did not have his best day. Guy throws for 270. No, he just throws for 270, like on a bad day. You're in the game you're in it to win the game. I mean, you're in the game. It wasn't completely out of it. It wasn't like there was like 4 or 5 egregious turnovers that lost you this game. You just got outplayed and outmuscled at the point of attack on the offensive line, and you didn't do anything to adjust to it. I think that was the biggest thing that Paul said in an episode, I think in this previous week. We were terrified of the adjustments in game. Can he write up a script? No doubt. He can write up a script. But it's those adjustments in game that terrify me about the guy sitting up in the box he had sun chips in there today. I don't know if you guys noticed that. It wasn't Chex Mix, it was sun chips. But There
we go. But listen, as much as we could talk about what happened today, because there was a lot that happened today, right? Like it was a hot pot of crazy. It was everything you didn't want to see, right? It was everything you didn't want to see. I look at it this way. I'd rather have a reality check now and get it going now, right? Yes, it's against an AFC opponent. That sucks. It's not a divisional game, right? You hate lose conference games too, but I'd rather take the reality check now. There's a lot of lessons here. But when Julian Edelman is calling you out on Twitter that you're overthinking the short routes, something's wrong. Julian Edelman told you overthought the short routes.
Jesus Christ.
He can't get things off the top shelf in his kitchen. But I think the point still remains, when you go back and you watch this, you'll see Josh 1, Josh 2, Josh 3, Josh run, right? And we talked about it in an episode, and that's what you see. You see 1, 2, 3 run, right? And it's unfortunate that that's what it came down to.
Yeah, it was. We got a couple of. I just want to mention a couple of super chats that we had. Let me scroll up to get the first one. The Mafia Sports, Dable once again continues to put his stamp on the offensive struggles going into the second half. He always struggled with the in-game adjustments, as we mentioned before. And then we had another super chat from Nautica. Going 5 wide when the O-line can't stop anything was ridiculous. Echoing the sentiment that I said before. I mean, it's just. I mean, let me just try to couch this. Clayton, you were an offensive lineman when you played, correct?
Absolutely.
Did you ever have a game where the guys were just in your kitchen the whole day and you were like, we got to do something different here?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. There's always times where you're going to have to adjust when the plan you approach a game with. If you approach the game with the wrong plan and they have the right one, there's definitely adjustments that need to be made at certain points and times.
Okay, I have played the quarterback position. I know that if I have everyone in my grill and I'm going to be suffering an ACL from stepping into a throw because everybody's in my kitchen, I know that I have to try to make adjustments on the sideline. We need to do something different, whether it's play action, whether it's screens, whether it's something. Just you got to slow that rush down. Now, if two yahoos that cover the Bills as a hobby can figure that out, what the heck is going on at one Bills drive? Now, some might go out on a limb and call us out and say, listen, you guys don't have the credibility to call these guys out. These guys are professionals, this, that, and the third. But until I see it, I can make my observations how I please. So that being said, that going forward, it scares me because, Paul, you asked me to do something. You gave me a homework assignment before we came on the show. You gave me a homework assignment. You're like, were there any late games last year where the Buffalo Bills got a turnover and ended up winning? I didn't find any of those specifically because it was like 5 minutes before the show. I was trying to do that, but I did find 4 games last year where the Buffalo Bills were either losing or tied in the fourth and ended up pulling the game out. It was Miami. They were down 20-17 with 10-11 left. The Rams, they were down 32-28 with 4:30 left. They were down 10-6 to the Jets. You guys remember this monstrosity?
Oh, yeah.
Going into the fourth, and they were tied with New England 21-21. That was the Cam Newton fumble game where Zimmer knocked it out. They ended up winning all 4 of those games late. So I want to start with Paul and then go to Clayton. Do you think this is a manifestation of the pattern that they had over last year, kind of carrying over this year to say, hey, we can come back. Even if we're struggling a little bit, we can come back. We just got to stay the course. We just got to stay the course.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of stubbornness today, right? It's every series had a similar feel to it, right? And there was a lot of stubbornness. And I do think we get caught up in old football adages, like when they kick the field goal in the fourth quarter, the first field goal in the fourth quarter with 9 minutes left, right around there. You're inside the 10. You're down 10 points. I get that you're gonna need a defensive stop anyway. You should be going for it there, right? Like I don't believe in taking 3 points inside the 10-yard line when you're down a touchdown and a field goal. I don't believe that. I don't. I know football. I know football logic says you should. It's okay to take the 3 points there, but it just doesn't feel right. Like even if you don't get it, you're stopping them inside the 10. You're going to get better field position if you do get that stop, right? You're quicker to get those points that you need. Mm-hmm. I just don't understand the logic of taking the 3 points. I don't get it.
So your philosophy is if you're down there, which has been a struggle for your offense all day, because you got to feel the game out. You definitely got to feel the game out. You're down there. You're down 20-10 with, what was it, 9:45 left in the game.
Right around there, yeah.
I'm sorry, 6 minutes. It was 6 minutes when they kicked the field goal. So you're saying even if you don't get it on fourth down, you're still down 10, but they're backed up.
Right.
And so you have a better chance because it limits their play calling back there in the end. Okay. All right.
That's your chance to win. It's either you score from 10 or you score from 40, right? Like you got to take your poison. And Clayton, I don't know. What do you think of that? What do you think? What do you think of that series of events?
I thought that the play calling and the situational decisions were very inconsistent. It was mind-boggling to me that they weren't going for it on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2 in the first half when, the momentum kind of reached a stalemate at that point when, the Bills really couldn't get outside of their own 40s. They really couldn't move the ball quite into field goal range or not really, they're kind of in no man's land. That's really where the offensive series began to stop today. And in the first half, they decided to punt those possessions away. Whereas when the momentum started to shift, when you could feel the Steelers start to turn on, that's when the Bills started going for it on 4th down. That 4th and 8 early in the second half, as well as that fourth down play where they ran the swing play. I really, that's more so on Sean McDermott. I will say in the first half, when they decided to punt those possessions away, those felt like situations, whereas last year they would have decided to go for it in those spots. You have 4th and 1, you have 4th and 2, you have Josh Allen, you can run a quarterback sneak. There's a lot of, I'm not going to say there's a lot of different things that Dable runs in those situations, but we've seen him run plays in the past that can get them, that can get the chains moving in those spots. And I really felt like, the inconsistencies with those situational play callings, it was way too little too late going for it on 4th down when it wasn't really advantageous. And the play calls that they called in those situations weren't really all that great either.
What's crazy is that in the past, I could remember being on broadcasts where the Buffalo Bills would win close or lose close, and they did kick field goals in those scenarios. They didn't go for it on 4th down. Like you talk about, here's what gets me. Now we're gonna get into the meat of it, guys. Let's talk about it because you guys already mentioned. Let's talk about this. The 4th down plays, okay? So we're gonna talk about 3, 4, 2 and a third, okay? The 3rd down play. Now I called Paul immediately when this happened. You have a 3rd and 1 from your own 46. Okay, you're up 3-0. You decide to run a flea flicker. Honestly, that if Singletary kept the ball, he was going to get the yard. Like if he didn't pitch it back to Allen, he was going to get that yard. I saw the hole. And you run a flea flicker, 1-man route. To me, and I even called my brother on this, Paul. You know how I always defer to him as far as X's and O's go. He goes, he said he thinks I'm overthinking it. And here's what I said to him and Paul. I said, you effectively told the rest of the league you're afraid to run it on 3rd and short. You run a flea flicker. That's too cute. Move the freaking chains. That's all you need to do is move the chains. That's all you need to. You got the team back. If you run that for a 1st down, you end up moving the chains. If you want to throw a little dump off to Beasley, this and that, you move the chains. That's what you need to do. But then I said like this. I go, listen, okay, the flea flicker. Let me just try to defend this point. It makes sense if you planned on going for it on 4th down. Now on your own 46 that early, it was in the 1st quarter. Okay, you could take a shot. A lot of time left. Okay. But that play call, the flea flicker, only makes sense to me is if you plan on going for it on 4th down anyway.
Right.
Okay, you want to take a shot on 3rd because we're going to go for it on 4th anyway. And you don't. You end up punting it. So it doesn't make any sense to me. Then we progress over to the 4th and 8. You had a 3rd and 8, and then you decide to go for it on 4th and 8, and you were at the Pittsburgh 35-yard line. Okay, it would have been a 42, 43-yarder that they said on the broadcast and whatnot. 6 minutes left. You're up 10-3. Now, 6 minutes left in the third quarter, and you decide to let Bass kick that. That's the one I'm talking about. In past years, Bills fans would have been like, "Oh my God, they're kicking it. Why don't they just try to go?" But if you go for that and Bass makes it, you're up 13. You're up 2 scores, 13-3 with 6 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. That's a more daunting task because they ended up coming down and kicking a field goal on you. So instead of being up 13-3, you're up 10-6. Now the whole scope of the game changes. Now they don't have to change anything up on their defense. They don't have to try to blitz and play man behind that and turn their backs to 17. That's what I think effectively did it. But the thing is, those calls happen, they're planned out. They're normally planned out. So if it's 3rd and 8, McDermott's on the horn with Dable saying, hey, we're going to go for it on 4th. Okay, they already know that. So going into that 3rd down, why wouldn't you try to get half the yardage back, in my opinion? If you're still planning on going on a 4th, why don't you get half the yardage back? And I just didn't understand it. You don't go for it on a 4th and 1 in the 1st quarter, but in the 3rd quarter, you go for it. And then you're forced to go for it on a 4th down in the 4th quarter. Like that throwback, I'll let you guys just tear that apart. But it just logically in football sense, it didn't make sense to me, the progression of those plays and how they went out. So
I'm with you there, Mar. I think there was just a general inconsistency. I think Nautica Harris had a super chat that said something about 5 wide, saying running 5 wide all day was ridiculous.
Yes.
It was just a massive inconsistency all day of here. I'll go back to the first series, right? The Bills come out in 5 wide after McKenzie just ran something, just had a huge return, right? McKenzie starts in the backfield. The first place, McKenzie in the backfield. Why is he on the field? Why is he on the field?
This guy just ran 70 yards.
He just ran 70 yards. You think they're going to hand it to McKenzie? Are you high? You're not handing it to McKenzie. He's getting a break. That's like a wide receiver after he just caught for 60 yards and they run a draw on the next play. You think that receiver's touching that corner? Nope. Not touching him, right? So I think that was just a microcosm of the day, right? The situation versus the personnel was a problem for me. I don't know where things checked out. I wish I knew, but I can tell you as far as my comfort level going forward is caution. Like, you just have to be cautious from here on out. I know we all have this blind optimism from time to time, but I think you have to have cautious optimism, because what I saw today were flashes of 2019, and it scared me, right? It felt like we were guarding the running game. For what reason, I don't know. And it looked like Josh was kind of making it up as he went. And while sometimes that's beneficial, we talked about an episode again this week. It's a scary place to be.
Josh threw the ball 50. I just want to say it real quick. Josh threw the ball 50 times today. He carried it a couple more times, but they had 79 total plays today. He threw them 50.
Yeah.
Oh, they just want to throw it in there. Go ahead, Clay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not like the Steelers imposed their will on this Bills defense. It's not like the time of possession was way lopsided or they had all of the control or any of those sort of things that certainly could have been outcomes of this game. I mean, Najee Harris, I was concerned about him. Their offensive line, I was not concerned about their offensive line, and I didn't think that was going to be the recipe to win. But, come down the stretch when the Bills defense was getting tired, I wasn't necessarily all that confident in the defense's capabilities of stopping them if the Steelers had to run the clock out. And it was confusing to me. This Bills offensive line, in my opinion, is not good enough for them to be able to just line up, drop back, and pass protect 50 times a game. I don't think this offensive line is nearly good enough, and I don't think if you're going to do that, this wasn't the defensive front to do it against. That's for sure. Everybody saw what Casey Hayward was able to do the last time these two teams met up, and it really kept this offense at bay. It kept the pressure was in Josh Allen's face a lot of times the last time these two teams met up, and until that pick six, things weren't really all that sure that the Bills were going to win. So I mean, come fast forward to this game. It wasn't much difference. Most of the personnel was the same. Cody Ford and John Feliciano at the guard spots. I mean, I understand Ike Bacher was in there from time to time, but it wasn't. It was much of the same result. In my opinion, if you're going to protect this offensive line, which is going to protect Josh Allen, you need to have some sort of focus on the run game to start games where you're facing up against fronts that are really capable of pinning their ears back and getting to your quarterback and winning their one-on-one matchups, which is really what happened a lot today. I touched on it at the onset about how this team didn't really blitz. They didn't need to. They were able to just send their front at them, and they were able to get in Josh Allen's face, and that was all they needed to do with all the coverage they have behind that front. It was just a mix of enough for that defense to be able to be efficient and shut down the Bills' passing attack. Because if you had some balance in this game, I think the game goes far differently than how we saw it. You run these play action plays, you run the flea flicker, as Mario was touching on. What good is all of that when you have no running game established, when you have not established the line of scrimmage? I feel if you were to get this offensive line in a rhythm, if you were to able to get them some cohesiveness, if they were to able to have some synergy within one another, and just impose their will on a defensive line and establish that line of scrimmage. That is so important for an offensive line, and I think it's just been brutally undermined by the offensive coordinator, and today was just another example of that.
I wanna leave you guys with this, right? So what the Bills ended up doing from a philosophical standpoint, because Pittsburgh can get there with 3, right? I think they showed that they could get there with 3. They really have the ability to generate a fair amount of pass rush with leaving a lot of guys in coverage. So I struggled to understand why you wouldn't want them to commit more guys to the line by getting the running game moving early, because running 5 wide against a team that's only rushing 3 anyway just plays into their hand, right? Like it just plays into their hand. So some of the formation stuff bothered me. Some of the personnel stuff bothered me, and that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. I'm really excited to rewatch this game with like a 24-pack of Keystone Light. Because, I mean, I have to rewatch this game anyway. I might as well hate what I drank, just hate myself a little more for having to watch it again. But, I want you guys to talk in great detail about that backwards pass to Matt Breida. So why I have to explain to my kid why Matt Breida had negative receiving yards today, I would love for you guys to help me with that. But I'll leave it with that. Thanks again, Clayton, for picking up the rest of the post game. Thanks again, Mark. It was great seeing you yesterday, guys.
All right. Yep. Take it easy, Paul.
Paul.
Have a good night, buddy. Paul is going to attend to his husbandly duties as we try to manifest.
You didn't trap me in a box here.
Well, I wanted to go back really quick because Freshly Fried, thank you so much. First of all, he had a $5 post-traumatic stress disorder is through the roof. We need better from this team. I agree 110%. And then he comes in right after that. Awesome. He says, Josh worth the money comments all week. You know we're going to hear those because there's going to be people that are in the one category for Dable's fault and one category for Josh's fault, and I understand that 110%. And then Freshly Fried just coming in hot with 20. Thank you, Freshly Fried. You're amazing. Thank you so much for the donation. Yeah, that fourth down play with the throwback, it was eerily reminiscent to the Drew Bledsoe, Willis McGahee, and I know diehard fans of the Bills, you guys will know. You guys remember that play that they ran? He ended up scoring a touchdown on it, and I remember that. But now it was put in the. I threw it up on the screen, but it was in the chat. I was trying to see if I could find it again, but it was one of those. John Herring, yes, he said the Bills need to stop listening to how good they are. Clayton, if you had to assign a percentage of maybe for the team, the offensive side of the ball, and or Dable, do you think that they came into this game too confident?
Oh, it seemed it was really apparent. You know, that's how I interpret it. I interpret a lot of arrogance. If you're going to go out there and, pardon my French, and get your ass handed to you for 2 quarters of football, and then you go out there and continue to do the same thing and run your head against the wall and not make any adjustments, it's extremely arrogant in my opinion. And this is something I had feared because I was quite high on Josh Allen throughout his maturation process. And I was fearful of this. I was fearful of Josh Allen maturing into what he is today and into a top quarterback who's capable of running around and making plays with his strong arm and fitting it into tight windows and being able to run an offense with efficiency. I was fearful that the offensive coordinator at play, that Brian Dable, would lean on him far too much and rely on him far too much to do quite literally everything. And Josh Allen's really good. Josh Allen is really, really good. He was worth every penny that the Bills gave him a couple of weeks ago. I don't want to see anybody questioning that by any means. And if there's anybody questioning that, then that you should be watching different people if they're questioning the Josh Allen contract. I don't think that this was really he didn't do Josh Allen any favors. And that's not to say that Josh Allen played well today. He had a touchdown pass that he overthrew to Emmanuel Sanders. 100%. Is Brian Dable as much to credit for getting Emmanuel Sanders open in a certain route scheme or concept in that play? And Josh Allen's 100% at fault for missing him on that play, for sure. Mm-hmm. You know, there's give and take. It's both of their fault. Absolutely. But all I'm saying is the person who's responsible to make adjustments that they should throughout the course of a football game didn't make enough, and that's why you saw the Bills' offense be stagnant for a majority of the day and not score enough points as a result. Yeah, it was like you said. It was like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. There were plays that he missed. I'm not gonna say that's why when I try to assign the blame coming down, it's like at one point of the game I wanted to sit there and I was like, why is he trying to win the MVP trophy with every throw? Like it seems like he was all jacked up, and I said it looked like a 1994 Brett Favre. You know what I mean? I was like, "What do you do? Yo, relax, settle down." Now we could say that easily because we're not playing in front of 70,000 all jacked up on adrenaline, like we don't. And just real quick, I want to say from PR Martinez, he said everything about the offense was too cute, starting with Moss being inactive. Nobody's going to argue on that point. I don't understand the whole Moss being an active thing. I'm not really sure what that was about. Maybe they just wanted a little bit more speed on the outside and they had to do something with special teams, which happened to let them down anyway. You know, special teams, that block punt was huge. But and I'll say this: do you think the Bills still lose the game if that punt's not blocked? No, I don't. I can confidently, that's a completely different game. If that punt isn't blocked and the Bills are down and they need a touchdown drive to win, I still have yet to be proven wrong in a situation like that Josh Allen's incapable of amounting a touchdown drive in that situation. Okay. So I mean, down 10, down 2 possessions with anything less than 4 minutes is always going to be difficult. Given especially if they get the ball back and you can't force a turnover or something in that nature, it's always going to be difficult. More times than not, you're going to lose in those situations unless you get something to fall your way. But if the Bills were to need a touchdown and that punt wasn't blocked and they had stopped them on the ensuing drive or something along those lines, I think we're talking about a very different game at this point.
Absolutely. I agree on it. It's just to me, the flow and the mood of the game, it didn't seem like the Buffalo Bills were like, and it's been mentioned like 65 times in the chat, and I could put those up there for everybody. And it's like, he just wasn't in a rhythm today. It wasn't any kind of consistency. And I think that was because of all those guys that were in his, number one, all those guys that were in his face. I don't think he was comfortable with that other plays. And there were some 4th down plays he wanted to go for. I mean, you could visibly see it on the screen. He was like, I want to go for it. I want to go for it. I want to go. It's like he was trying to make up for the first, second, and third down plays that he happened to either have misfire or mess up or something like that, something to that effect, But in the long run, and I believe it was Jessica Tennis put it in the chat. She said, "Listen, in the long run, this might be the good thing for the Buffalo Bills. Getting that slice of humble pie. Albeit it sucks that it's against an AFC team. You like to lose those games against the NFC teams, and we've highlighted quite a bit on the channel why you want to lose those games is they don't factor into the seeding. When you lose an NFC game, Josh Allen and this offense." Albeit having a tough day, if they're only down 1 score, I have confidence in that. I agree with you on that one. But like you said, you're down 10 with less than 4. You used all your timeouts. It's a tough thing for somebody to do. Now, going into that and thinking about that and venting as we did, because this is one of the things that happens. Going forward, what's one thing on the offense, one thing on the defense that you would like to see moving forward for this team going into week 2?
I mean, the offensive side of the ball, I really just want to see Zach Moss activated. I want to see what this guy has. I've gotten to talk to Zach a handful of times in the preseason, and he's juiced up. He's ready to go. This is a guy that, he hurt himself towards the end of the last season. He's ready to get the football in his hands and show people what he's capable to do or able to do with the football. And I want to see that kind of approach coming next week against the Miami Dolphins. I feel when you're facing a team that's going to be blitzing a lot, when they're going to be stacking the box a lot, trying to confuse the offense or the offensive line, similar to what the Steelers did a lot today, it's going to be helpful if you can establish the line of scrimmage early. That is so important, especially when you had a game today where, that offensive line should not feel good about themselves. No. I'm not saying that should bleed into next week, but there is nothing for them to really hang their hat on over the last 7 months to give them confidence. You come out there week 1 and you get manhandled. What is really making you confident at this point, aside from the quarterback that's behind you? There is nothing for that offensive line to really feel good about themselves. If I start next week, starting the offensive game plan next week, I would just run the ball. I would get these guys feeling good. I would get these guys leaning on some bodies, creating holes and creating plays for the running backs. Because, Devin Singletary had an excellent showing today. I'm sick of everybody questioning the Bills' capabilities with the running attack. The reason why the Bills' rushing attack last year was so subpar is because of your subpar interior offensive linemen, such as John Feliciano and Cody Ford, Mike Bacher included. Those guys are subpar. And the decision that they made this offseason to not replace or upgrade that position and side with comfort to re-sign John Feliciano, $4 or $5 million per season. I understand as people who evaluate this team, who analyze what this team does, John Feliciano taking $5 million per season, a lot of people viewed as a favor, but in my opinion, it was just on par with what he's worth because he's a fringe starter just about anywhere else in the league. And here, a lot of people, I think he's extremely overrated. And I've never really seen anything to be proved wrong about that. Today was just more of an example, but playing into the run game, that really plays to his strength. He is a decent run blocker. So if you were to get these guys to get their juices flowing, get these guys mauling on some people, I think that really helps your case for the offense going forward. It's just, and like you touched on, a slice of humble pie in the first week, that's not really a bad thing for this team because if you see how this offseason's gone and all the things this team's had to say, it's not bad to have a confident bunch, but it's also not bad to get punched in the gut and reminded that you're not perfect too.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bills fans, as far as we can mention a bunch of things to try to temper their expectations and temper the fact that, okay, I remember not too long ago that an 11-1 Steelers team came into Buffalo and Buffalo beat them, and then they ended up losing in the first round of the playoffs. So it's not about how you start; it's how you finish. So if this team happens to get hot at the right time near the end of the year, I mean this will be a memory. I mean, some years back, I remember the Buffalo Bills beating the New England Patriots 31-0 in the opening week, and that was the year that they won the Super Bowl. So these things happen to turn around. It's a marathon, not a sprint this season, and any given Sunday and stuff like that. I might take umbrage because a lot of people know on this channel I happen to love me some Mongo. You know what I mean? But I thought, though, I had your thought process with that, Clayton, and the fact that Ford was starting instead of Butker. He's a road grader, Ford. Feliciano's a road grader. Morse, he's more cerebral and he can get everybody where they need to go as far as the line calls go. But I'm sitting there thinking, okay, why don't they try to run the ball more? I thought they were going to. You want to try to establish, the old school, you want to try to establish the run. No, I think you need some balance to take some heat off of 17 back there, because the guy, as amazing as he is, a lot of the plays that he made last year were outside of the pocket, on the run, getting away from pressure, and he was able to do those things. And people I think a lot of times last year people were thinking, well, we got to blitz him. We got to rush him. But then he was getting the ball out of his hands so fast. And these guys can win one-on-one matchups as far as Davis, Beasley, and Diggs. And now you enter Sanders into that mix. You can do that stuff. And if you blitz him and you turn your back to 17, if he breaks that pocket, he's gone. They didn't do that today. They kept everything in front of them. They were playing bracket coverage behind certain things, so Beasley couldn't go one way or the other. And it was really tough, and they were able to generate that pressure with only bringing 3 or 4 guys. And when you're able to do that, you either have to alternate the play calling or alternate the blocking scheme that you have on that particular play. So if it's just they weren't altering things on the offensive line and they were just saying we have to win some one-on-one matchups here, and they just weren't, I can understand that. I may not like it, but I can understand it. But the fact is, OG Bobby Johnson needs to do something with that unit, and he needs to do something with that unit quick, or that $260 million is just going to be thrown down the drain because this kid's going to be running for his life the whole time.
Judging things based off of what I saw today, what is it really holding this team back at this current state? We saw some very promising things from that defense, from the whole defense, particularly the defensive line. When I see Najee Harris incapable of doing just about anything, they had 75 rushing yards today, and 25 of that was on the Claypool sweep. And, Najee Harris averaging 2.8 yards per carry. That front and that defense, they did their job today. That was plenty enough to win this game. And I think that defense, that's a good game to start this season off with. Mm-hmm. It's really the offensive line. That is the biggest concern that I've had for this football team going into the offseason, coming out of the offseason, deciding to stick with their guns, stick with their second-round pick that they traded up for with Cody Ford, stick with John Feliciano. That's okay. Those two guys, you say what you will about Ford and what he's amounted to this point, but having those two guys, that's passable. That is okay. But it's just a matter of if you're going to be able to match up with teams like this, teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers, teams like the Buccaneers, who you're going to have to play this season, teams like Washington, who you're also going to have to play this season, teams who have really good fronts that don't need to blitz anybody. They could send 4 guys and they'll be good because they have an exceptional front that can win their one-on-one battles. It's a tough matchup whenever this team's going to face a team like that. And more often than not, those teams are normally standing come playoff time. So it's a good thing that something like this is being discussed and has to be evaluated after the first game of the year, because you can't play all season with an offensive line that played like they did today. Hopefully they can think of something and figure something out. I'm not sure if it's schematic or if it's just based on these guys lining up and losing. Like I said, I've said to you numerous times that they should have been moving the pocket. Once it was determined that, like we were talking about earlier, the stubbornness, they weren't willing to admit, we just can't win these one-on-one battles. This is a matchup that's just, it is a losing matchup. I thought that instead of reestablishing the line of scrimmage, if you can't reestablish the line of scrimmage, then reestablish the capable of throwing on the run. Run some boots, get the running game going, so that way the team's waiting on play action. There was a lot of different things today, and a lot of different adjustments that they could have made at halftime, and it really felt like they came out saying we're going to spread them out and test their cornerback depth, and they died trying to do that today, and it really did not amount to anything.
Yeah, I would have if I was trying to decipher a lot of the things, and I'm going to echo a lot of the points that you have as well. If I was trying to decipher some of the things, like, listen, okay, they're getting beat up the middle, they're getting beat on the edge. I have to keep a tight end in, or I got to keep it back in. I can't keep going 5 wide, even if that was the game plan to try to spread these guys out. That's number one. Number two, even when he did have protection, they were only rushing 4, dropping 7. That's tough for any quarterback in the NFL if you have to go 4 versus 7 or 5 versus 7. That's tough to try to find, and who knows if the guys that are running the routes are finding the soft zones or finding man. It was like Pittsburgh was taking away all the throws at the sticks and then making Josh try to go second level on them and try to squeeze in some very tight spots. Obviously, the Emmanuel Sanders one, that was a great call. He missed the shot. That's what happens. The Diggs non-call on the pass interference that they were talking about, I think some people were mentioning it before, where Edmonds for Pittsburgh came over the top of him. He said Fitzpatrick kind of spun him around a little bit. But that all being said and that all being intertwined, you at least there's things to have to work on. As far as the defensive side of the ball goes, this is a team where they're not flashy. They're not going to come up with these big splash plays. They're just a solid unit. And they could stop teams and hold teams down. 252 total yards today. Like you said, you echoed that 2 point what yards? 2.1 for Najee Harris?
2.8.
Like 2.8. That guy's a beast, okay? And to hold that guy to that is pretty amazing as a defense itself. So you were able to make Pittsburgh be one-dimensional, but they just made certain plays at certain times that just killed you. And the offensive play calling for Pittsburgh, they kept showing the guy in the booth. He was in college most of his time. You could tell a lot of those were derivative from college. Like some of those plays he was calling with the formations and the shifts and stuff. And the Bills seemed to adjust very, very well to that because they didn't give up any really, really, really big plays. The pass interference call on Levi Wallace, obviously that turns the game. People will talk about, well, we need a corner, but we need CB2. Like that's an unfortunate play call. And the touchdown pass to Deontay Johnson, he was covered. That was a great catch. Like people need to know, like he was at like the Gabriel Davis touchdown. He was covered too. That was just a great throw and great catch. So those things will manifest and happen in the game, and those don't really tell you, oh yeah, if he got beat and the wide receiver was 5 yards behind him, okay, all right, we need a new corner. But he was all over him, and he still caught the ball for a touchdown. So like those things, I'm like, okay, he didn't have his best game. Do we need to go shopping for another corner? No. Allen didn't have his best game. Do we need to trade him? Like, come on now. You know what I mean? It's like, but all in all, it's to me, what I'm going to be focused on, hashtag Paul, me and Paul, as far as our channels, we're going to be focused on the adjustments. When the tape gets released and we're able to watch it, I'm going to be focused on, okay, what is situational things? Because as well as I do playing the game itself, why you run certain plays early in the game is because you're trying to set stuff up later. So let's just say if Dable did want to throw all those like little routes here and there, those 4 or 5 yard catches, you may go deep early in the game. And that play to Sanders probably was one of the things that, stuck in the Steelers' mind where they're like, hey, they went deep on us. They're going to try to go deep today. We need to kind of, cover the back end a little bit and open up those things. You know what else opens up the passing lanes and stuff? Running the ball.
If the defense has to account for something else, that's just what it is. That's been the biggest problem with this offense is or the biggest question mark going into the offseason and coming out of the offseason, all the way to the season opener. What does a defense really have to account for aside from the Bills' passing attack? And, in my opinion, the biggest weakness of Josh Allen at this point isn't necessarily his processor, isn't necessarily his decision-making. It's more so falls in lines with what we kind of saw today. Him just getting all shook up, him playing very erratic, playing very sporadic, and playing, hero ball. That is exactly what you don't want to see Josh Allen get into. And, it felt like we had seen it, right from the first snap today. And, a lot of people, you could say he's going to ease into the game. And there's a lot of things an offensive coordinator can do to ease a quarterback into the game, make him get a flow, get him into rhythm, get his confidence going. Whatever it needs to happen for Josh Allen to get a feel for the game and stop flinging the ball 5 yards too far when he needs to thread the needle, that you can't be having that. And when you have interior pressure, such as Josh Allen was facing today, he's never going to really feel comfortable. He's always going to feel like he has to, as soon as he gets the ball, he has to kind of look around and move. It's 1, 2, 3, go. That's really what it felt like today. And that really hurt the offense. If it's one thing, you were touching on Levi Wallace and how people feel about Levi Wallace. What are we basing this argument on that we need a better CB2 from today? From this game? Why is today the game that you want to hang your hat on and say that this is why we need a new cornerback too? It's not today. This is not the game. Levi Wallace, say what you will about the pass interference, say what you will. It was two penalties he had towards the late stretch of the game. But say what you will about those plays. He was being targeted quite a lot today. And you saw what happened the one time that Ben targeted Trey White, aside from the back shoulder fade to Claypool. It was an interception, and it was called back for holding, but I thought that flag was a little bogus. I'm not going to sit here and blame referees, but, the penalties they were calling in the secondary were questionable. You can say they were questionable. That's more than fair. I felt that, they were throwing at Wallace with something in mind, and Wallace did not play nearly as bad as we've seen him play when teams have done that in the past. We have seen teams target with Levi Wallace in his side of the field many times in the past couple of years, and it has been far worse than it was today. And he's faced up against worse talent than he was today. Deontay Johnson is no slouch. The best receiver they have on that team averaged 7.7 yards per catch today, and I really don't think Levi Wallace played a bad game at all. So I'm not hearing anything people have to say about getting a new cornerback too. I thought the defense from front to back played the game they needed to play in order to beat the Steelers, and that's really where I kind of summarize how this defense played.
Yeah, you gave up. This is the narrative of today. Both defenses gave up. We're talking about now. Let's just talk about the Steelers for a second. Number three ranked defense coming into today. Coming in from last year. You know what I mean? And they have the newly minted $100 million linebacker now in TJ Watt, but they were ranked third, and both defenses today gave up 16 points. Okay. Now, if you look at it, Juju and Chase and Deontay, that's a three-headed monster that not a lot of teams have. That's a heck of a team. And they're all big, they're all big guys. You had Juju, who went 4 for 52. He had 8 targets, though. So he only caught half of the passes thrown his way. Chase caught 3 of 5. Deontay Johnson, you said, hit 5 for 36, and he was targeted 10 times. So he caught 5 of 10 passes. I could see if the quarterback that came in threw for 4. Who should be looking for cornerbacks is Tampa Bay, guys. Dak hung a 400 burger on them. You know what I mean? It's that's a team. That's a team in a secondary that you need to say, okay, we need to reevaluate, maybe bring in a free agent here and there. Today's not the day, guys. Today's not the day. Levi, did he have his best game ever? No. However, he didn't have a game where you're thinking about changing somebody up. If Paul was here, he'd want Dane Jackson to get some burn. That's all I'm saying. He would definitely want Dane Jackson to get some burn. But, nothing jumps off the page. Roethlisberger 18 for 32. Really? He throws for just over 50%, and now we're going to just go crazy. He got sacked twice. He's one of the guys that he gets the ball out of his hands faster than anybody. He's an 18-year veteran, guys. He knows what to do. So in that respect, that's why I think it's so tough, because there's not really one singular thing you could point to on this game of why they lost. It was a game where Bills fans and the Bills alike probably came into it with such high expectations. The Buffalo Bills just went 13-3, just took the AFC East and went to the AFC Championship game. I think the expectation from a fan's view was we're going to roll through everybody. Bills are going to roll through everybody. And that's just not how it happens in the league. The last team to go undefeated was the 72 Dolphins, and they had a cake schedule. Teams that have won the Super Bowl since then have not gone undefeated. So can we just, it was a rough game for them. They have adjustments that they have to make. We've highlighted some of those things. Offensive line needs to get a little bit better at gelling. the offensive play calling, we could say it, but in truth, we don't know if Josh was changing the plays because you get multiple calls as a quarterback on the field. You can call multiple plays. He probably checked to a few plays that were wrong. But the fact is, what I saw for a majority of the game was the Steelers didn't blitz. They were playing bracket coverage behind it. As an offensive coordinator in the NFL, you need to know how to beat that. And he didn't. Now, he didn't know how to beat it or Allen didn't find the open guys. One of the two has to be rectified in a week now because you're playing a division game now next time.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's going to be – I really, I'd rather see this team go through growing pains in the first week of the season than, if you really think about it, this team has been riding high ever since that Hail Murray that, even on today's broadcast.
Yeah, they talked about it. They definitely talked about the Hail Murray. I think Clayton got frozen for a second, guys. Either Clayton's frozen or I'm frozen. Clayton got frozen, guys. All right, let's go to the chat. Let's try to lock this up a little bit. Freshly Fried, I just put it on there. Thank you for joining the Hall of Fame member section of Hashtag Sports. Thank you for becoming one of the hashtag heroes. And Clayton's going to be coming back in a second. But thank you for that. That's phenomenal. You get a lot of the backstage stuff. 90s Bills team rolled on people on a regular basis. Yeah, but they went 12-4, 13-3 a lot of times. Clayton, my dog, you good?
I don't know.
You all right, brother? Okay, I'm gonna see while he tries to sort that stuff out. I'm gonna be okay. Thank you, Joey. Yes. I just want to give you guys a little reminder as well. In the description of this video, right at the top, there's a link to our Etsy store. We have an Etsy store with only 2 shirts in there right now. So we're starting off slow. Hashtag merch has dropped. It has the hashtag sports on the front, and it has what drives you, which is our slogan on the back. We got a few slogans here. We have trending now, trending later, and we have what drives you as far as our sayings go for hashtag sports. We're going to be doing these post games every game. We're going to have it after for you guys, and we're going to be abandoning the car until the bye week. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that. We're not going to be in the car. We're going to be doing mainly recordings for you that we're going to be at each other's houses. So that's the ones that we're going to do going forward. We also would like to thank our sponsor, Mr. Rogers Homes, for sponsoring this episode tonight, as well as, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, everything is in the description down there for some videos and this, just like the Bills to stop it. Let me see what comments we got. Giants went 0-2 and went on to win the Super Bowl. Triggs, you are 100% right. Yeah, they did. I think there were a couple teams that did that. I think the Cowboys ended up doing that in the 90s, though, as well. So if I was to try to gauge that, I think they did. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. I prefer post-game celebrations. You're not kidding. I wish we could have celebrated this. No car is the studio needing an oil change. It does, Daniel. Welcome. Thank you, Daniel. I haven't seen you the whole stream. Where you been, brother? Clayton, we good now, buddy?
Yeah, I kicked my girlfriend off her computer, so I should fix it.
All good. Why don't we have your? Where are you? There's no screen. What in the world? Your webcam's not showing up.
It's not?
No. Ladies and gentlemen, no, it's all black. Packers and Colts were in the playoffs last year, both 0-1 as well. The sky's not falling. There you go, brother. He's never looked better from Daniel Gallery. He's coming in. Gallery's is roasting already. Just I'll let Clayton let you guys know. First of all, we'd like to thank him for his time of coming on the show tonight. He didn't have to. I gave him a last minute call. He came out of the bullpen to help us out because Paul wasn't going to be here. Cold Front. Talk to me about Cold Front. Are they going live tonight? Because I want to be in that chat.
Yeah, we'll be live at about 9 p.m. on our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. It'll be Jaron Turner Montgomery and Travis Blakely and myself. We'll be just recapping the game, giving our thoughts. More of the same, really, for me. I'm gonna just really reinforce what I said a lot here tonight. I'll be hosting, so the fireworks will be going. I know Jeremy isn't too happy with how this game went. There's a lot of passion as to how this game went. It normally gets pretty live on our recap shows when the Bills come out and lose, so certainly don't want to miss it. I appreciate Mario letting me come on. It's always a pleasure to work with Hashtag Sports. I love working with these guys. There's nobody I'd rather work with in the Bills content creation stratosphere. I'm not dissing anybody. I love working with everybody else, but these guys, I feel at home on Hashtag Sports, and I want to thank Hashtag Nation for welcoming me on and not giving me a hard time in the chat. Some of them like to roast me a little bit, but it's always a pleasure at Hashtag Sports.
Yeah, we really don't have a lot of trolls in Hashtag Nation. I mean, we get some fans from the other teams that'll come in, and Hashtag Nation tends to take care of them really, really well. But I mean, we really have a dedicated, loyal fan base. They're Bills fans, so they're always dedicated and loyal. But I mean, the fact that they devote their time, both the Hashtag Nation and Paul and myself, is a real treat, and we can't thank them enough for that. As well as we got to thank our sponsor, like I said, Sean Rogers Homes. And just a reminder, the tournament that we had yesterday, I want to thank everybody that came out to it. We were able to raise quite a bit of money for Matthew 25 Farms. It's Rick Rarick, who's a member of Hashtag Nation. A lot of guys had a lot of fun playing golf, and we had the silent auction. We gave away a lot of jerseys. Coincidentally enough, the Deion Dawkins jersey wasn't the last one picked off the table. The last jersey picked off the table was the Trey White Pro Bowl jersey that we gave away. It was down to the Trey White Pro Bowl jersey and Josh Allen's high school jersey. This is how deep we went with the jerseys, Clayton. It was pretty crazy. And then we also we had a silent auction for a Jim Kelly autographed official Rydell helmet. That ended up going for $300. So we were very happy and very fortunate to raise money for a great cause in Matthew 25 Farms. Rick said amazing golf tournament. And remember old-fashioned trousers. Who is this guy, by the way? This is Clayton Garrett from the Cold Front Report. If you're not following them on all your socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, if you're not following them, you're doing yourself a hell of a disservice. They create great content. They're like graphics are on steroids because it's awesome. They're always putting up certain polls of, who would you rather start in this position? They cover content 12 months out of the year, which, some guys end up taking breaks like me and Paul do, but these guys cover it 12 months out of the year, and they do a phenomenal job. And we're glad that they're friends of the show, and collaborating with them is such a treat. So like I said, Clayton, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Oh yeah. Rick Rarick just reminded me too. He said that Diggs print went for $300. There was a canvas of Stephon Diggs like flexing, and it had like smoke in the background, and also it was phenomenal. It went for $300. That was insane. People were just like throwing money at this thing.
Was it signed?
It was not signed. If you guys have ever seen Stephon Diggs' signature, it's pretty hysterical. I don't know if you've ever seen it. He does the S, but the bottom part of the S he puts a line through, so it becomes a D. So that's the signature. It's just an S with a line at the bottom. Like, okay, I guess that works. So Clayton, aside from tonight, you guys doing the post game, what do you guys got coming up during the week?
Jeremy will be going live Tuesday with it's not business, it's just Bills, his personal show. So he goes live every Tuesday with that. On my end of things, I'll be going live next Saturday with Mookie Hawkins. Hopefully, maybe I can get Mario back on the show. The Saturday night tailgate it's got a new facelift, and it's always a pleasure working with Mookie. It's always fun. It's Mario knows plenty about the Saturday night tailgate. I'm sure Hashtag Nation does as well. It's a lot of fun on that show. It's probably one of the most fun shows I've gotten to do as part of Cold Front Report. And then, of course, our weekly post-game show. That's really the meat and potatoes of our live show content. That is a must tune in show every night every time after the game. We'll normally go live that night. If it's a primetime game, we'll be going live the next night. It's really just situational at that point. But yeah, we're always going live. We always have different shows going on throughout the week. It's a lot of fun over at Cold Front Report. I'd appreciate it if everybody came and gave us a follow. Cold Front Report Buffalo Bills right on Facebook and Twitter. It's at Cold Front Report, and Instagram it's at Cold Front Report _Bills News.
Yeah, guys, they put out amazing content. If you're a member of Hashtag Nation, go be a member of Cold Front Report as well. So that's going to do it for us. The Buffalo Bills with a very humbling 23-16 loss on opening day when everyone was allowed back in the stadium. I can't wait to read the police blotter tomorrow. I know there's going to be a few people that I know on there. But that being said, for Clayton, Paul was here earlier. I am Mario. Thank you for joining our broadcast tonight, and we'll see you guys next week.